So when I became the DigiDesign rep for my area, uh, before I was a rep, I was the only dealer. So when I became the rep, I couldn't be the dealer. So I had to open up dealers in my territory, which was the Mid Atlantic area. So Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, those areas. So what I did is I approached some of my bigger clients that had a big Pro Tools rig and try to talk them into becoming a dealer. I said, listen, I'll give you the leads and you can just have a cup of coffee in the morning and sit down and call on people. And if they're interested, you could have them come to your studio or you could go and see them and you can make some extra money. And some people, they went for it. And what happened is that's how I kind of uh, became friends with Gary Sloyer, who eventually owned Angel Mountain. But before that, he had a smaller studio. It was called Sloyer Sound at that point, and it was in his house, but it was in a pretty big house. And I told him about becoming a dealer, and he said, "Oh, that sounds okay. I'll do it." So I would feed him the leads, the people that were interested, and he would just like I said, cup of coffee, sit down, and call people. Well, he called a place called Sight and Sound, which is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And the Sight and Sound, it's they do religious theater, and this place it's unbelievable. It's in the middle of Lancaster, and huge tour buses come in with people, and they have reenactments of Bible stories, but huge theater productions. I mean, they had, I think when they had like real camels and big animals, for part of the production, and they would write a different story, a biblical story, and they would have it reenacted there. So a huge amount of people would come out there, and uh, Gary Sloyer called on them, and they were interested in the Pro Tools system. So he he got there and he showed it to him, and slowly he became friends with him. And this would have never happened if he tried to walk in the front door. But Gary was a composer, and because he sold him the gear, they needed a composer. They were willing to accept some of the work that he was doing. And one thing led to another, and he started composing all the music for Sight and Sound, which turned into a very lucrative client for Sloyer Sound, which later turned into Angel Mountain. But the problem was Sloyer Sound was a small studio, and he couldn't record the big choirs and the big orchestras. So they would go down to Nashville and record, and then come back and have the production done. And that was kind of the seed for how Angel Mountain got started, because Gary felt that if he had a big enough studio, and he talked to them ahead of time, they would bring the production over there for the big choirs and the big orchestral stuff, and he would keep writing stuff. But the kind of the point of this whole video is to say, opening up a dealer for a Pro Tools dealer, it just one thing led to another, and something that he was just supposed to make a little bit of profit on turned into a big situation, and that worked out great. The only part that didn't work out great is Angel Mountain got built, and when it was time for them to start recording at Angel Mountain, something happened. I don't know exactly what it was, but they decided they weren't going to record at Angel Mountain. They weren't bringing their choirs over there. They weren't going to do their orchestral work. And they actually were starting to reuse old compositions that they had. So they really weren't using Gary the way they were using him before. So that whole lucrative account just kind of shriveled up and went away, which was unfortunate because they were counting on that money coming in. So that's another new tale